So when it comes to multifamily property investing, there's a couple expenses that sometimes get really overlooked with investors. They'll look at the income and they'll look at the mortgage and the interest, the insurance, the property taxes, all that stuff that's kind of wrapped in, and that's fairly easy to recognize. But something that's not on the radar of every single investor, and it takes a little bit of experience, is the maintenance and the vacancy. And those are two really important factors because they're not exactly a perfect science that you're going to know exactly how it happens and when it happens. But for maintenance, there's rules that you want to try and budget some of the income away for eventual maintenance that's going to take place, because as a landlord, typically that's your responsibility to repair and maintain the property and keep it up in a good living condition. So on some of like a newer property, maybe not brand new, but maybe 20 years old, 30 years old, maybe you want to budget 5 to 6% of the gross rents away for maintenance. If it's an older property, maybe this thing's 60 years old and then maybe it hasn't been super well maintained before you bought it, maybe you want to budget a little bit higher, like 8% of the gross income on that property, and set that aside for maintenance, because you know that that property is going to need more care and attention, and it's going to take more money to keep that into good working order. Same thing for vacancy. That's a little bit easier to track because we can see what the Bakersfield market is doing. You can kind of see where the trends are, if the rental market is really hot, if the general vacancy rate is high or low. Right now we're still really low vacancy rate. And so but you still want to budget that in, even if it is a 1% factor. If the property makes $100,000 a year, that's still $1,000 a year that you do want to have budgeted in, because if you do have an apartment that does go vacant, you could potentially lose a couple $1,000s for that year while you're waiting maybe a month or two to get somebody into that unit. So a couple things to keep an eye out for. Make sure that you're budgeting for that, the maintenance. Make sure that you're gauging maintenance. It's not just like a flat 5% across the board. It's going to be 5% of the budget, because their properties are older, they're newer. Some of them are renovated, some of them are not. You want to gauge that accordingly and watch out for those two expenses.